So when I was reading everything, so listen, I went through your file and just went through the stuff you sent me just to make sure I'm refreshed. But as you know, when we did the full workup, the working diagnosis with like chronic traumatic encephalopathy, prime glial cells, you it seems like you watched the whole seminar we did on neuroinflammation and digested that, so you kind of get it.
Yep.
That model, that concept, is it appropriate to you? Still, I'm not sure. You don't know if any treatment's 100% unless you have an outcome. I think it's pretty right on to your clinical history, since you have clear symptoms on the brain regional localization form over the motor areas or physical exam findings. They
Hmm.
all fall into place. The thing that's
Yeah.
still getting off is this parasites. To
You
me,
and me both, man.
I've never seen a parasitic protocol go this long with continued release of helminths. Like I've never seen that in my entire career.
Thank you for telling me that because I've been wondering, like, am I alone in the world? You know?
Okay, now I will tell you, I'm not a tropical disease expert. I mean, you might go to tropical disease expert and go, "Yeah, this is how it always is." So every now and then, like I have patient populations that these things pop up, but it's not like that's my area of practice, and I see hundreds of patients with helminth infections all the time. So, in
Yeah.
in my limited point of view, having patients, have a lot of times we get protozoa infections, but helminth infections where you just keep releasing them in your system like this. And your protocol, like with your meds, is pretty broad spectrum. Like you're hitting all the main meds. I wanted to make sure. So I looked at all your medication list. I'm like, you're definitely hitting protozoa medication, health medication. Like you're hitting all the different types of medication. You're taking like a ton of supplements for your gut, and
Yeah.
so that's like one of the things that obviously comes up when we look at your follow-up appointment and like some of the concerns and questions you have. And so for me, looking at your case, as you know, our initial goal was like, hey, let's get your ketosis, let's get your neuroinflammation down, let's get you to get your motor frontal lobe working better,
Yeah.
and then like really try to improve your mitochondria. Because a big part of your chief complaints was just really your brain endurance. And your brain
Yeah.
endurance was like, even now, if you look at the form and you talk about how you feel, you look at the day, like if your scale is out of five and you're like at a five, or in the day, or 4 or 3, by the time it gets to the end of the day, you've gone down one or
Yeah.
2 points on your scale. So it's
Yeah.
an endurance issue. um it seems like when I was going through your document, this follow-up document, there's definitely the clear patterns of when you figured out how to stabilize your blood sugar levels that made a big impact on you, and you continue to do that. So, somewhat.
It's hard to say. I get so confused because when you said you suggested to have a snack, I
Yeah.
thought it would make a bigger difference. And it's like there's a few days where I almost always have a dip.
Okay.
Sometimes I have a crash, but sometimes, most of the time, it's in between. And it's just, no, it seems to be like that no matter what
Yeah.
food I
Well,
eat.
I think when I was reading your like crashes around 2 to 3, and then you need to take a nap, that's definitely most likely brain fatigue. Like that's like your brain needs a break. That's the typical
It's not
pattern.
always to the point of having like a nap,
Yeah.
but maybe, so you're still saying it's just being awake and alive and moving around that is tiring.
I think it's still an endurance issue. Like most likely,
Okay. Um,
cognitive brain endurance issues. Now, remember, like a lot of the stuff, like your heaviness in your legs and weakness and all that stuff, stems from most likely the injury to the premotor frontal areas, which we found through your exam and your questionnaire forms.
well, actually,
So
that has felt a little bit, there has been some improvement with my legs. I have not had as much tiredness in my legs.
that's good.
Yeah. So the the focus feels like it just the brain part, the cognition is not as
Okay, well, let's go back to a couple key things we should talk about before we really go into specifics. One of them
yeah,
is this parasite thing.
yeah. Help.
So I have no idea what to do for you next with that.
Okay.
I don't know. If I was in your shoes, I would look for a tropical disease specialist. They're around. Okay, there are people
Okay.
with tropical diseases,
We
infection.
were thinking about like go somewhere like India where they deal with it all the time and they don't pretend like it doesn't exist, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in like real tropical disease clinicians know this stuff exists and they treat it. Your average like internist is not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
You understand. Yeah. You've been through the
Yeah.
game. But like a fully trained, experienced tropical disease expert may be someone you
Right.
need to find to help you with this because it's you should respond.
Crazy.
Like you should respond by now. And like
It,
sometimes you see people that don't respond with the helmet or parasitic infection because they have like severe immune weakness, and you don't have that. Like
okay.
compromise or severe immune disease. You don't see any patterns of that in your history in your workup. Um,
Okay.
so and you're taking like all these other nutraceuticals and supplements with it. And one of the things I read in there was like it's definitely draining your savings. Yeah, you're taking a lot of stuff. I'm sure that could be how expensive. Like how much is
You're
yours?
curious. It's well, if you don't count the traveling and all the flights, um, it's $3,400 for 6 months of medication, and then it's about 1,000 to 1,500, right, Justin, per round on supplements or per 3 months. So it's
Yeah.
about $6,000 for 6 months,
It's like 1,000 a month average.
but
It's more.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
at the minimum.
Listen, I would. So if I were in your position, I'd be all. Let's focus on finding a tropical disease infectious specialist that has some experience with helminths and
Okay.
see what are the options are. I mean, there's a big part of it is like these helminths, these parasitic infections. They're notorious for using your nutrients, using your energy to grow and thrive, so you don't have the ability to feel good and recover. Right? That's the thing. So it's like
Yeah.
whatever your recovery was, like if your recovery was from maybe it wasn't a brain injury, but it was something else, it would definitely get in the way. And if your focus was just energy issues and fatigue, it would be a problem. Like people that have these helmets have chronic fatigue and exhaustion all the time. And a big part of your battle is just this energy level, sustaining your mood, your energy, your focus, your concentration. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think that's one area that I wish I could help you more with, but I don't have the
Thanks.
level of expertise you may need for that. And if you do find out, please tell me what that infectious
If
disease.
I figure it out. Okay. Yeah. Just sitting around like in that. So I had a follow up yesterday, and the patients in the IV room are talking, and they've all had like way more crazy stories than I have, but they can resolve theirs in a month or two. And
Exactly.
I was like, but I've been on it a year. And they were like, well, we think it's been like, they were just reflecting on their experience. The longer you have it, the worse it's entrenched in your body and hiding and built up biofilms. And yeah.
Again, you might need to focus on it. You're taking a lot of stuff for biofilms, like a lot of nutraceuticals and stuff you're taking.
Oh yeah. I don't even know because he gave it all to me,
Love
but we
less
don't
specific, but
discuss it.
you're taking a lot of different things like high concentrated oregano and other things like ADP and all these other things that would break down biofilm.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I saw a definite shift in everything with the cell core stuff,
Okay.
which yeah.
So
Okay.
okay, so we did it. So here let's go through the since your last 4 weeks you've been doing everything. Okay, sometimes not doing hit, that's okay. So moodiness and depression, that's kind of the main thing, right? And
It's been brutal.
okay. So we kind of go over the next.
I want to add something I thought of that I didn't put in there. It's not that I'm not following it. It's just that with the ketones, you wanted me to stay between 2 and 3, and I realized in the morning I'm probably at about a 1.1 or a 1.2 millimolar per liter. And with the ketones that I have, they have stevia and monk fruit, and I'm wondering if it's contributing to some of the bloating. And I've been a little hesitant to take it because I know you're not real big on the artificial sweeteners, but I don't have another option.
I think it's fine. Your ketone levels are amazing. Those
Well,
are
that's if I take that in the morning, they're like 1.1, 1.2, but they rise through the day towards 2.6 or 7 or 8.
amazing.
That's okay. But in the morning, the low is okay.
Yeah, that low is still good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're definitely like the clinical concept of getting you in ketosis to help bring down neuroinflammation and help your brain mitochondria function better. You're 100% attaining that with the levels you're at.
Okay.
Okay, for sure. Like
That was a question.
there's nothing more to
Okay.
do there. Like you're in 1 to 3, you are there.
And then if I'm fasting, it's like crazy high.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is you have to understand, like, you may be healing parts of your brain that have been injured, getting in a state of ketosis, which, if you remember the neuroinflammatory course, there's like an M1 and microglial inflammatory pathway, anti-inflammatory pathway. They turn on the anti-inflammatory, protective, restorative, growth factor pathways. You just have all this other stuff happening that is impacting,
Yeah.
the
It's a lot.
parasites, energy production. So, and at this point, how would you feel if you went off it completely? Because do you think you would crash? Like if you started
What,
eating,
the medicine?
no, the diet. Like if you went out of ketosis, do you think your energy levels would be worse?
It, I don't know. I have no idea. I feel like maybe so there's been nights where I eat a little bit like extra pork rinds. That's the treat I have, or like a chocolate bar or something, but it's infrequently, but I feel like I notice a lift in energy. I feel like it,
Yeah,
but it's so isolated when I do that.
but if you had like carbohydrates for each meal,
I don't know.
you don't know. Okay, well, let's,
Maybe.
let's talk, because you're one of the things you want to do is to kind of look into foods and introducing different foods and talk about possibilities. So
If
you
there
put
is
down here like
something.
your current concerns. 80% of my struggles, side effects of parasite meds, impact of life, concern parasite meds are not working, not sufficient to eliminate issue. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like we talked about. You got to work with this tropical disease specialist and see
Okay.
that you're doing everything you should be doing. You're taking a very thorough protocol. It's just, I don't know. I've never seen it, any history of anyone in my entire career, and even consulting with other practitioners over the country in my entire career. Is the last of this one.
That's crazy. Not a claim of fame I want, but
But again, like I was saying, you might go to a tropical disease specialist, think, oh yeah, we see this all the time. This is no big deal. It's because they're so used to seeing, these type of cases like there's. Okay, 20% of my struggle is level of restrictness. Okay, yeah, you may not have to be so worried about being so strict.
okay. Okay. So I was understanding that the immune system kind of resets the antibodies if you avoid things for 6 months. So I didn't know, like, if you have any exposure at all, it's bad or
This is the last thing you need to really drain your energy.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Don't worry too much about this. Let's see. Unless you
Be-
notice a big difference, like you should experiment every now and then too. Even so,
okay. Okay. Yeah. Because I was starting to think just before the appointment started that even if I do, even if I do experiment, the medicine fluctuations are like I can't decipher what's the medicine and what would be a food react,
yeah,
because my food ish reactions are basically depression, feeling like moodiness,
yeah,
and fatigue.
yeah.
And so that's the same as the medicine.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
so here's the thing: the initial protocol that I put together for you, the goal of clinical management is to get you in ketosis, dampen your
Yep.
inflammation, progress to long-term fasting, develop neuroplasticity with movement, activity, and hitting all the things you're doing, right? And
Yep.
then you finish what you're doing with your protocol. That all is there to kind of deal with that neuroinflammatory model. But this parasitic problem could just be such a significant pattern for you that it's like not having much of an. It's not as critical. Maybe
Yeah.
you kind of switch off the neuroinflammation diet and let your mental struggleness of having to be so diligent just calms down. It might be really something to consider trying.
Okay.
I mean, your body will let you know. Like if you get out of ketosis and it was having a positive impact on your brain, there's no theory. Like you're gonna know I'm much worse. I don't have as much efficient energy. I'm
Okay.
much sooner. Like don't let any of this be theoretical nutrition. Let your body make it very clear what your body, what you respond to. So
Okay.
if you have like neuroinflammation and your brain mitochondria is inefficient, you're going to know when you go out of ketosis if you really need to be in it. Okay.
Okay. I would not. Okay, that's in the okay. That makes sense in the rest of it.
Okay. Autoimmune
The
paleo, like why is this driving you nuts?
what?
A strict AAP, FODMAP, keto, lack of travel, portable, social at all. Okay. Maybe you don't need to do all that so aggressively.
Okay.
You know,
I'll experiment. A little
Experiment.
bit more, yeah. And
Experiment.
maybe
Yeah. So typically, like, let's look at the keto part of it first. The keto part of it, like, you may want to try this one thing at a time and see how you do. From the
yeah.
keto part of it, that's going to be the a very clear indication once you get at ketosis for 2 or 3 days of like that was really helping me or was it?
Okay.
And it's going to be specific to your brain, cognitive function, endurance, energy levels throughout the day, like your brain endurance, like before you crash at 2 and how hard you crash and all those things. Okay, that'll
Okay.
be your basic indication there.
Mhm.
Now, FODMAP diet, it's going to be really specific to bloating and distension.
Yeah, and I feel like that's even gotten worse as the months go by with the I have to assume parasite meds, or I don't know what's
Yeah,
happening, but
that's
my gut doesn't seem as it seems even not as good as it was. Ugh.
yeah, and FODMAP diet is really related to not so much parasites, but it's really related to like translocation of bacteria from the small to large intestine. And that may happen too because you have like a brain gut axis issue and that valve control may not be so efficient. But your
Yeah,
biggest clue is like you eat something and the distension is immediate. That's the key
immediate.
thing.
Okay.
Immediate. Yeah. So when
Uh,
there's bacteria in the small intestine, when you eat something, we're talking like within minutes. If you get a big belly and bloated, then that's
yeah,
okay. But if you like eat something, and go, hey, I've been bloated all day. I don't really know why. Maybe I can't eat this. That might not be as clear an indication because your gut microbiome's disrupted by all the medication, all the things you're taking. Okay.
yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean, you need to be on a FODMAP diet. FODMAP diet is, again, specific for bacteria that's in the large intestine moving into the small intestine, and then it can't handle those fructose and sugars and resistant starches. And as soon as you eat it, you get distended and bloated.
Okay.
So experiment. So for keto, see how your energy and function is and your energy levels are. For FODMAP, see if you notice any immediate changes in bloating and distension after you eat it. Okay, because you have bloating and
Okay.
distension all the time for your gut issues.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like after breakfast, it's basically fat and protein. Well, obviously,
Yeah.
and I feel like even that's been bloating me lately, which it didn't used to. So
Okay. So there again, you can kind of see where you are. Now, when it comes to like autoimmune paleo or dietary proteins that can be causing some inflammation and symptoms, that can be a little bit more tricky because reactions to food proteins can take
yeah.
3 days before they show up. Okay. But it's not like the end of the world and you start all over and all that stuff. Like, I think you might
Okay.
get caught up in the world of AIP blogs and stuff.
Yeah, right. It's completely true. Well, you saw all the food sensitivities that when I on my initial exam, and
Yeah.
I felt none of those,
Right.
none of them. So I would not like the yeah.
I mean, just for the most part, like when you look at inflammatory foods, gluten, dairy are the two most common.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Okay, so you might immediately notice like you can't tolerate those.
Well, even those I don't notice. I've just read so much about it. I thought, oh, maybe I never eat these. Well,
Yeah.
I'll never eat. But exposure, that's what I was wanting to get a feel for. Like if that, okay, so it sounds like as long as I don't notice too
Well,
much of an
yeah.
impact, I'm not going to go eat like bread or,
If this is 20% of your struggle, which is a lot, like don't be so concerned. I
okay.
mean, if I were you with brain inflammation, for sure, it's definitely dairy just because they're so inflammatory. Um,
Yeah.
and, you know, and then kind of see where you are with the rest. Like
Okay.
you're not going to be able to every food sensitivity that you may have on a food that isn't going to cause massive neuroinflammation on you. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just like the phytic acid and the lack of nutrition that's also not good and things like that as well. Like what can, yeah, okay. Fair enough. But
No, no.
that's helpful.
I don't think I understand the question, but I mean, with autoimmune paleo diet, the only model is really you're getting rid of food proteins that trigger immune reactivity. That's the whole concept of an autoimmune paleo diet. You're getting rid of the autoimmune triggers, which are food proteins that trigger.
Mm.
So yeah, like if you start getting into like histamine, keto, salicylates, and going through the whole list, you won't have anything to eat.
Well, lectins, right?
Yeah, lectins could be another one. So it's going to be like the most common ones are going to be gluten, dairy, like GMO foods, corn and soy, and
Yep.
then lectins are up there, and nightshades, and nightshades and lectins overlap. But basically,
Like they're the worst.
yeah. I mean, they're common. I mean, a lot of lectins are also nightshade foods, but like potato is a nightshade. It
which
doesn't.
I ate those all the time
Hmm? You ate those
before.
yeah. And
Before.
again, you might have to like so when it comes to like the autoimmune paleo diet, so for keto, like just get out of ketosis, see how your energy levels are. Do that first for a few days.
Okay.
And then for FODMAP, just immediately notice any bloating and distension to give you clues if that's an issue.
Got
For
it.
AIP, you might just want to stay off gluten dairy like permanently.
Yeah.
And like then go, I want to try some, I don't know, some foods that were off my list as a group every few days and then see how you are. Because technically you've been doing an elimination
Yep.
for a period of time.
Yep.
And then you can now provoke yourself with any food to see what kind of reaction you get, which is the gold standard.
Okay. So maybe I don't need like I was concerned with the stages of which things are at the top and the bottom and
Uh,
like rice is down there and at stage 4 like the last thing to introduce and I thought really yeah. So for carbs, is there any preferred carbs if I were to try that again? Like I was thinking sweet potatoes and maybe white rice, like basmati or something.
Typically with carbs, the more fiber it has,
Oh yeah. Okay.
the better is in your blood sugar. But the more fiber it has, it can be more disrupting to your SIBO. You know,
Okay.
so you like you're gonna break rules with everything you have.
I know.
Just go with whatever you miss eating. Find some things that you miss eating that bring some joy into your life. See if you can tolerate them.
I like the food that I'm eating, but yeah, it's nice to be able to not have to cook it all myself, and that's the thing.
Yeah. Listen, even with people that have like severe brain injury that have lost significant function, or people that have MS with severe brain inflammation,
Yeah.
um, they go out of ketosis and give themselves breaks throughout the month, throughout the week sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not like you need to totally be too worried about that. Okay, and it's not like we're worrying with the we don't have like a major autoimmune mechanism as your main concern either. So it's not like we're so concerned that you get exposed to a dietary protein. We're just really worried about the neuroinflammation and your ability to
Gotcha. Okay.
plasticity. It's not like
Helpful.
it's like you have neural lupus and we're worried about one immune trigger like or MS causing demyelination all throughout your brain. Like that's not your mechanism.
Okay.
I wouldn't be as worried with some little exposures here and there.
So
Okay.
I do have antibodies, but you don't consider me. Yeah. Okay. Fair.
I think they were just not conclusive, right?
They
They were
were the red. They were the
vibrant.
uh Cyrex.
Remind me,
It
which ones were they?
it was the parietal cells, the liver, and the aziogangliocyte.
Basically, said, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I mean, we have to still be concerned about that, but it's not like you have lupus patterns or stuff like that.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
say, still follow it, but just be careful. Okay. And
Thank you.
then that's the diet part. Are you okay with diet?
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah.
Like, go to Whole Foods, eat at the bar. If you're see,
Oh,
don't like lose your mind. Don't be that weird person. Don't be that.
I, well, if that's what it's taking for a while, I can do it. Yeah, that's what I wanted you to know was that I can do it, but I feel like I'm starting to struggle and I hate to admit that, but it's the truth.
Yeah, don't be that person. Yeah, give yourself some flexibility. Give yourself a little, room. This shouldn't be 20% of your struggle, especially since it's not directly linked to your flare-ups or symptoms.
Okay. I bet Justin's happy about this now. Not that you weren't unhappy before, but for me, I bet you feel relieved. That's good.
Okay, working out, lack of cycling, horse riding, physical hobbies. I feel confident in my ability to slowly begin some activities and to watch and be watchful for any adverse effects. Perfect. That's so basically you're doing physical activity, you're just looking to see if it causes you to crash, right?
Yeah, because before I was avoiding all of it.
That's perfect. That's exactly what you need to do. As a
Oh,
matter of
well,
fact, with a frontal lobe, like a frontal lobe and motor area injury where it impacts your muscle function and tightness of limbs and everything, you have to activate those areas to rehabilitate and reconnect and develop plasticity. So
okay.
the more
Like,
of those things you do, the better. So
oh, okay, great.
you've been able to figure out like when you've crossed the line, you feel it that day or you feel it the next day.
Oh, with exercise, it was every day right after I did it, and for the next several hours, I would be really tired.
Yeah.
I never noticed anything with cycling or horse riding or um, yeah, anything else.
Then you should do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I might like with the workouts just do less, a lot less.
Yeah, just listen to your body and see what you can do.
Okay.
Especially if your brain shuts down, like you finish your workout. It's not that you just need to like take a shower, let your muscles relax and stretch. It's like you have to close your eyes and shut down.
Well,
That's like,
it's usually feels like a blood sugar thing. My legs got so shaky and I got crazy moody after the
yeah,
workouts.
that could be a blood sugar thing also.
Okay.
So let's see, understanding how to introduce test
Right.
selection. I think we did that, right?
Yep.
So for keto, just get off ketosis and see what your energy endurance levels are.
Kind of
Body,
play around. Okay, that's good.
just go reintroduce some food to ID. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Got it.
Don't need any nutrition experts. You're a nutrition expert. Right. What do you hope to accomplish with upcoming appointment? Review parasite. Okay, so I'm not sure if I understand. Wiggle room physical hobbies. Did we not cover that or
We did.
yeah, we did this?
Flexo, yes, yes.
IAP nutritionist. You don't need a nutritionist.
Yeah.
Identify. Yeah, like you following the AAP diet 100% isn't going to be the factor that causes you to turn the corner. What will cause you to turn the corner is going to be figure out how to get rid of these parasites.
Right. Okay.
Um, yeah, you can definitely get false negatives if you haven't been exposed to the food for 3 to 4 months.
Okay. So that's probably a total waste of
Previous
money.
exposure still cause reactions, so it doesn't take much to show up on a panel.
And then how long after you eat it do you need to wait?
They
If I
start, so they come up, but usually like lab determined levels, like with immunoglobulins for IgG, which is what they check, IgM, they're like in the 2 to 2 month window. So they kind of start to peak at 2 months, but they start showing up at 2 weeks. And then
Okay.
a lot of variance between one person and another.
Got it.
So if you
Mm,
like only had it like the day before or the week before, you still might not have it register on a panel.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, you could do another HITA scan because I think what like you had a HITA scan with like it was 15%, then it went down to 9% or
Very
something.
low. Yeah.
And the thought was the helminths could be inside the gallbladder, gall duct area.
Yeah. I was wondering about that. It's if there's a place to do it, I don't know if, without having to get a doctor to
I
order.
think again, as you work with the tropical disease specialist, we can find one. That would be a good question for them.
In the head scan too, there's been a lot of noise in my ear. It's odd. I don't know what else could be in here that would cause there's no like muscles to spasm or anything
What
like
do you
that.
can you explain that to me more?
The closest thing it sounds like if you go like in a pool and go upside down and you get water in your ear, you can hear it sloshing around, but it's when I'm not moving my head, and then it's also been kind of like the same type of noise, but more of a tapping. And it woke me up the other night. Like it was
Does it change with pressure? Like if you go on an
it,
airplane?
it mm, I do notice it around the full moon and in the morning, which I realize that's when the serotonin is what is it, goes the lowest?
It's always the left ear only. It's just the left ear all the time.
Yeah, it's only left. Like
Yeah.
right now it hasn't really happened today and it kind of stopped a few days ago. Um
So like, I mean,
that part I just yeah.
there's things called like paralympatic fistulas where you get a little hole in your inner ear apparatus. Those are pretty rare. They usually happen after trauma, and they're almost always made worse with pressure. And one of the tests we do with them, which I did during the exam with you, just like compress your ear and let go. If you do,
Yeah.
does that cause your symptoms to get worse?
No.
Doesn't. Okay, so that's probably not like an atopic. You could just have injury to the temporal lobe can sometimes do that. And then also you could have just like little temporal lobe seizures in your auditory cortex that makes you have those symptoms as well. So it's
Okay.
hard to say, but as far as imaging goes for that, there isn't really something you're going to be able to find from imaging, unless you
I,
had like an anatomical hole in your inner ear, and then you would have to do a specific CT scan for that.
well, there was that, I don't know, you probably didn't see that article that came up with the woman that had brain surgery that had, they pulled a worm out of her brain. And
Let's see.
she had some like same symptoms that I have, and
More
they
reason
had
to
some
tropical
image in the
disease.
article that had like some, I don't know what kind of scan it was, but it was something that showed a spot in her brain.
Um,
Okay.
more of a reason is to consult with a tropical disease.
Okay, sure, yeah.
I
Okay.
understand that mechanism. I can only kind of look at it from a neurological model, but none of it really falls in place as likely as we like. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Ooh,
probably doing chemical reactivity array for heavy metals. Listen, I don't think you should do any of this stuff right now until you get your
parasite.
parasites.
Okay, cool.
Don't waste your time, energy, resources, and all this stuff right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks for the feedback.
yeah. Let's make sure we're not missing anything. Okay, Cyrix, yeah, don't do Cyrix. Neuro, no. LabCorp. Not really. You're always been healthy. Nothing's slipping in there. We can always do like an annual follow-up blood test, but nothing's gonna show up. ApoE4, like I don't know. I know you're a little concerned about that. But it just means there's some increased risk for some Alzheimer's disease and cardiovascular disease.
Well, with the climbing lipids, I think it's LDL, like it just continues. It was approaching like 300, I feel like. So I'm switching over to olive oil and stuff
Yeah,
more.
you can see if that makes a difference on you with that. All right. Cyrix Labs, like autoimmune panel. I mean, if you have an autoimmune panel, like if you have an like autoimmune, like you got to get rid of pathogens, infections. So you got one. It's staring right at you.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah, literally. Like you got to get rid of that. Gut permeability. You're gonna have gut permeability, brain
Uh,
permeability. You're gonna have to fix gut permeability, fix brain permeability. All this
mhm.
kind of goes back to trying to see if we get your parasite under control. Okay.
Yeah, okay, good. That helps.
No clear awareness of my path forward is here for me. I think again, if we can get a
Sure.
tropical disease specialist to, and it might take you more than one attempt to find the right person. Like this is going to be a frustrating battle for you, as you
Okay.
already encountered, I'm sure, dealing with
Yeah.
yourself, right? Okay, but once you find a person that's like an expert, they should be able to give you some really good advice. Okay, and then this is stuff about the fat, saturated fat, ApoE, protein. Yeah, you can experiment with different things and see what changes your LDL. Like this is not that big of a concern.
Okay. Fair. Okay.
Is there any signal in regards to cholesterol? No, not that I'm aware of with your CT recovery. No. Okay. For maneuver like an ApoE4, like so we should know like ApoE4 and traumatic brain injury increases the risk for yeah, that's interesting. Not for the fat itself, but APE4 people do have an increased risk for chronic traumatic encephalopathy from TBI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what that number is like who knows? But like you have risk factors all the time. If you live in a polluted city with air pollution, you have some risk factors for asthma, but you might not have asthma your whole life. Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
okay. For your information course, M2 less clearance of parasites. I mean, M1 and M2 are both involved. I mean, again, this is related to brain,
Yep.
so let's hope you don't have any helmets in your brain.
I kind of assumed I did.
You might, again, this is why you might need a tropical disease specialist to
Yeah.
look at that possibility. I've never
Okay, I'm glad we could at least laugh about
background or experience to give you any good information about that. Okay, so you're playing with your dosage of T4, T3, you look at your labs. Your labs are, as long as your TSH is within reference range, it looks like, and you should be okay, right?
it. ESH is zero point 0.6 something. I just got the results back. It's in your name, so maybe you have them there.
I have it in here somewhere, yeah. Okay.
But both T4 and T3 are below normal a lot.
Below
So
T4 and T3 below normal, but your TSH is normal. Is it on here?
ESH is like zero point 0.6 something. Yeah. Oh, it's the current one is not on there because I got the results yesterday. Do you have the lab results there? There, yeah. Yeah, 0.63. And so I lowered my
This could
dose
be, it's the most
before.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Okay. That's really interesting. Because this doesn't follow any pattern, which means we would have to repeat it to make sure to make sure.
What do you
So
mean follow a pattern?
um, so let me double check.
I changed my dosage between May, like 90 days ago about. I cut my T4 in half.
Okay.
But TSH goes up.
So this one here, like if you see your TSH is low 0.015
Yeah.
and then 5.4 and then 4 and 41. This could be sometimes what they call a pituitary suppression.
I was wondering about that.
This is the previous results.
Yeah.
But T4 is like, and that can happen for medication.
Yeah.
That's doesn't have it's the medication that causes that. It could be one of the medications you're taking. Um,
It was, oh, the parasite meds.
yeah.
It's been like this since before I started taking.
Okay. Now this one here, like your TSH is within the normal reference range, but your T3 and T4 is down. Like you may be catching this in various stages of hypothyroidism and clearance. It's hard to say. Like when you see these numbers like this, they don't tell you an exact treatment. You have to do what you're already doing, which is experiment.
Okay.
And and what did you find with your experimentation?
Well, I when I decrease T4, I don't have enough T3 unless I take it, no matter what.
No
No
matter
matter
what.
how much T4 I take, it can be like so many, like 225 micrograms. No, it just T3 is still very low. Maybe um and then TSH was 0, which I don't think is ideal. So since T4 is not doing anything, that's why I cut it in half. I assume it's not doing anything, and T3 is the one that I need to take. So
Right. So,
my hope was to increase T3 and maybe decrease or eliminate the T4, but that's just.
see, this is where like starts to get to theoretical models. Like, are the are the helminth infections impacting your T4 to T3 conversion in your liver?
Could be.
Are they impacting your metabolism of thyroid hormones? Are they taking up your thyroid hormones and growing? I don't know,
Yeah. Okay.
but it's like
Well,
it's like a wrench in the clear diagnosis pattern of everything. Okay.
yeah, if I yeah, my plan was to try to increase the T3 and decrease the T4.
Yeah.
Like,
Ultimately, you have to experiment, just see how you function and feel. But you're working with the endocrinologist helping you, right?
they're not, so Swedish one.
Yeah. Listen, this is going to be like,
It's a battle because they don't want to give me any T3, but I think that's what I need. So if that's the case, then I've got to find somebody here in the States.
in the States, yeah. Europe is very, because medical organizations in Europe are very strict with T3 usage because it causes a lot of like hyperactive symptoms. So they have a bias towards not using it.
I'm not
In the
hyperactive.
US, more and more research is coming out saying they should do T4, T3 combined therapy in the endocrinology literature. But so you can have different biases in different countries. So, but you got to experiment. Okay, let's go through the emails. I was going through them. I think that was that clear there. And then when I was going through your patterns, again, it was just kind of like your numbers just go down throughout the day. Like
Yeah,
little,
sometimes they recover in the evening, but
yeah.
a lot of times it's down and flatline.
And these are, yeah, this is a 1 through 5 grading scale you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with 5 being good.
Yep. All these, okay. I mean, there's some days you're looking like you're doing pretty good.
Every now and then, yeah.
And then you seem to be doing much better in the morning than the afternoon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot better.
Someone like hit this. You have to listen to your body with recovery and how you do. I'm not really sure. This is just your exercise log, what this means.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It was my heart rate.
Oh, your heart rate. Okay. So it's just more of the. It's great you're keeping a journal and track of everything like this. This may become very valuable for you as you know, go see the tropical disease specialist. And
Yeah, yeah.
this one document you made could just be like the entire summary of the case. So yeah, but it was pretty consistent. Like you keep having parasites, you keep having energy issues that get worse throughout the end of the day. Your symptoms get worse at the end of the day. You're pretty much taking everything you can that most people would for any kind of parasitic infection, nutraceutically, and with
Mhm.
medication. Like it's a pretty thorough protocol here. Like you're
Mhm.
taking a lot of stuff. Um, like there isn't a magic supplement you're missing, and if you only took that, this would turn everything around. Like that's not.
Yeah, okay. I start to feel kind of crazy that
Yeah,
I it seems like this was all the answer, and then I step back and wonder why.
right. So
Oh, the CBD. So I tried some that I thought was pure-ish, and it may have made anxiety and depression.
so I wasn't sure what this said. You tested a CBD source you had.
Yeah, I found some here that seemed like a good source.
Oh, okay. They've never seen a CBD panel like this. That's pretty cool.
I had to print it out so that I could bring it back to Sweden in case because they THC is illegal.
Oh, right.
So
So your mercury levels is nothing detected. This is like a basic blood test, right?
yeah,
No detection. Is this in Sweden? Where is this?
that is the US.
Oh, I never heard of this lab.
Oh, the lab. Oh, I don't know. I assume the lab is in the US.
Okay, and I only tell you that because with labs, like for me, the standard has always been CLIA certified. I don't know what A2LA accredited
Yeah,
means,
neither do I. Okay.
but like the standard in the like world of laboratory testing is CLIA. So,
Is it do you know of any types that you consider to be pure?
well, I mean, most we only run tests that are CLIA or American College of Pathologists approved labs because we know that they've gone through the standards of showing reproducibility and they have standard operating procedures that work. But at the end of the day, they didn't find anything detectable that makes any difference at all. You could have just done a bunch of tests that.
Is it possible that people react to CBD even if it was pure?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Maybe I'll try it again. Justin, are we missing anything? Is there anything?
You can have different reactions for the whole various different variables.
I know. Yeah.
No, Mary, I can think. I think just the only thing I would point out is I don't think that was a blood test that you had done. I think you had. I think Dr.
Those,
Krasnian, that's just
right.
that's reporting the
The content.
CBD. Yeah,
Content.
exactly. I think it was just more of the medicine or the.
He was joking.
Oh,
I think the
okay.
rest was pretty much the same. Here, let me go to the rest. Okay. Oh, here we go. Let's go through this. Okay. Yeah, this is your number one concern. This is for sure. It's highlighted. That's the problem. We gotta get you through. Like I was expecting you would finish your parasite protocol. It's been like 10 months ago.
I
And
know.
you would have finished your parasite protocol, you had been recovering, and then we focus on everything else.
I
And
know.
in the person to put your protocol, you have to wrote together a very thorough protocol, from my understanding of it. I could be missing something. And then so kind of dealing with that. Outside of that, these are still blood sugar symptoms. I don't know if you're
Oh, the cravings and stuff.
craving sweets during the day, irritable if meals are missed, depending on coffee to keep yourself going, getting lightheaded if meals are missed. Those are still indications your blood sugar may be dropping.
Even on ketosis.
Yeah, even in ketosis, you can, even if your ketone level measurements are okay, what's happening at the cellular level may not be picked up on those. So you still want to experiment with eating frequently, or if you feel tired, like how you said when you worked out, you feel like shaky, you had to eat, and you feel function better. So again, you have to experiment with that still. And then
Okay.
as far as like your thyroid, you definitely have thyroid symptoms, but you're dealing with the whole issue with T4 and T3. which doesn't make any sense, which we don't know if like it's the parasites impacting your body's ability to convert T4 to T3. It's hard to say. This is your brain region localization form. This is clearly the area of injury. This is all frontal lobe.
Okay.
You should see zeros and ones, threes and fours all over the place. This is the area that impacts your muscles, your premotor strip. This is the Broca's speech area, which when your brain gets tired, it's hard to produce words. So this is what the initial exam would work up as being the
it's the same.
Some of the TBI injuries are this there. Yeah. I mean, with these, as recovery happens, what you would notice is your endurance improves first, and then eventually the symptoms go away. So it always starts with endurance. The problem with you is your endurance is just not getting better throughout the day. So like
no. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be just more and more from the parasite meds. Well,
yeah, I understand.
But right now I'm off until I get these next ones from the pharmacy, and the jet lag. I don't know if it was the jet lag or it was a reaction to something, but it's like a week of crashing out after I get here, even if I eat my own food.
Yeah, I mean, so you're dealing with a lot of stuff, all the different medications all together, and everything else here. Okay, so if we look here, let's see what else you got here.
Oh, yeah.
These are probably from the meds.
Yep. Well, that was right after I did a liver gallbladder flush in a fast, and
Yes.
it usually goes up after the flush.
Okay, but still, I would still think it's more likely from the meds.
Oh, okay.
Ferritin a little high, cholesterol 360.
Oh, higher than I remember. Yeah.
Oh, you haven't seen these?
No, I just didn't realize it was that high. For some reason, I thought it was in the 200s. I have total cholesterol. Okay. LDL was 260.
61. Well, you're going to experiment with different fats, like you said, and see how you do, right?
Yeah.
This is the weird. Like if your TSH is down and your T4 and T3 down, this is known as a pituitary hypofunction, secondary hypothyroidism. And that's definitely by meds. It's not like that's what causes it. Medication does that.
Medication's causing. Okay.
Yeah. And you might have a combination of more than one thing involved.
Like without medicine, my TSH this was a while ago, was like in the 5, 6, and yeah, T3, T4 were low.
Yeah, so the skin could be being on antiparasitic meds for a long time. Now, this white blood cell count being low, I mean, this is where we get into this problem where, like, people have like HIV, you can expect them to not recover from parasites, but when people have immune weakness and compromise, things can be a little harder, but then the parasites themselves cause immune compromise and weakness. So this white blood cell being 0.3,
like I was saying.
Yeah. So like, one strategy could be you could try to do things to improve your white blood cells. You just try to take a strategy of, instead of just trying to kill the parasites,
Yes.
try to just stimulate immune function in white blood cells. You can even try to take like different peptides to stimulate the immune system, like injectional peptides. You need
I've done peptides. Which ones?
The US. I have to look them up. That's not my tropomycin, some of the other ones out there, but immune stimulating peptides, a whole category of them.
Okay.
And different practitioners you see to do peptide therapy may have their own preferences of what they like to use. It's not within my scope, so I don't prescribe them, But this could be an area you could focus on.
Yeah.
You have nowhere to go. But you still need to consult with a tropical disease specialist.
Yeah.
And then let's see, your white blood cells had ketones. That's a little bit of white blood cells here. Are we dealing with a urinary tract infection?
I don't think so. I think this was like a dirty sample.
Okay.
If that could cause any of that.
Like if you saw this urinalysis report, you would think you had a little bit of a urinary tract infection because your white blood cells were abnormal and you had some bacteria in there. But you may have cleared up on its own. Could have been just subtle.
If I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
And
then glucose. This is the rest of your metabolic profile. This is another metabolic profile. That's June 2023.
So the recent one has a BUN that's pretty low. I guess maybe we expect that from the low protein in the diet. Not this one, but the one that was done a couple days ago.
Yeah, let me just.
If it's in there.
This in your routine.
I think it was 4.
8. Here it is.
No, it would be the September something of this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about that right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like some stress happening here. You're on a constant round and round of medication with no effects, no major change. This is where, like, some people might go, oh, maybe you should try homeopathy, try energetic medicine, you should try something different. Maybe. I mean, there's a point.
I rechecked it after this, and it had gone right back down to normal.
Oh, yeah, your ASDs, transaminases?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking as far as the clinical strategy in general.
Oh, okay.
Like the clinical strategy in general is, okay. So one is like your immune system is too weak to make a difference, but the concept is like, well, how do you support the white blood cells? Like, first of all, are you getting proper sleep?
My sleep is like the only thing that's working right now.
Okay. Then it's okay. If you're getting proper sleep, are you, is there something that's causing immune compromise? Well, yeah, in your case, it could be the parasites. And the second question is like, what if you started to take a bunch of nutraceuticals to really stimulate your white blood cell count? I don't like if you take vitamin C and vitamin D and vitamin A and astragalus and all these different. It's like I don't think it's going to do shit. That's just me. But it's something you can't try. If you get to the point of like wanting to try a different strategy, I would just encourage you at this point to look for a tropical disease specialist.
Okay.
Play with your diet and other things and see where they are. Okay.
Great. Yeah.
You're still, as long as you can still like move and do your physical activity, noticing some improvements and how your leg feels, your muscles are feeling, and those things are overall improving. And maybe a better reflection of is how your first part of the day. Like if you start to get more 5s and 4s and 3s the first part of the day, you're probably getting some brain recovery.
Okay.
You're just having like this energy depletion happening because you're having basically parasites engulfing all your nutrients and energy throughout the day as a possible mechanism. It doesn't make sense for you to continue to have this for this long and not respond to the parasitic protocol you're at to that level. So I would say, okay, so did we cover the things you wanted to cover?
I think so. Justin, is there anything that
I don't have anything else.
Okay. So at the end of the day, you still have this neuroinflammation, like TBI issue. That's going to be something you need to focus on until you optimize that. And in the meantime, like you're not getting far because you have these parasites that have not been able to be eradicated. You're going to have to find a tropical disease specialist to kind of do that. And if not, then you might want to shift to a strategy of trying to really just focus on improving your immune system and white blood cells with someone who does like peptide therapies to stimulate the immune system, or maybe even a nutraceutical approach. But I really think all those could have no effect if whatever you're ingesting is taken up by parasites and they're using it instead of you.
Yeah, true. Okay.
So can you keep me posted and let me know? The next step would be like, let me know how you end up with a tropical disease specialist, if you can find one. What do they recommend? At one point or another, like I just don't see how you can move ahead unless you can
figure that out.
Control. Yeah.
I mean, that's how what you're saying is it agrees exactly with how we feel, I think, right?
Yeah. And you might have to find like a couple other people that work this out for you. And then at some point where the neuroinflammation, brain recovery game is back on, that's when we really need to connect.
Yeah. Okay. So then
I'm happy to, listen, I'm here for wherever you need questions or I can help you in any way. I'm just telling you, like,
yeah,
I need to reemerge back with the initial strategy once we can get this variable out of the way.
It totally makes sense. I wish it were. It's super frustrating for me that this is the way things have played out. But I mean, we are where we are, and I don't disagree with what you're saying or thinking
Okay. And then
at
try to be
all.
a little easier on yourself with the diet and see how you do. And
Thanks. Yeah, yeah,
okay. All right.
yeah.
We'll go
Okay,
from
that's
there.
so. Should we just reach out with Susan for
Yeah.
a follow up, or how to like at some
Well, let me
point?
know with an email if you find someone. If you find someone, you do a new protocol. Um, see how you respond, and then
Okay.
let's connect at some point after you tried your protocol and see how you respond, or you just feel lots of questions and so forth. It's very likely. It's very likely, like you go out of keto and you got to go back on it, and you're gonna have to just focus on your
Yeah.
energy efficiency and really focus on the things you're doing with activities and hobbies, figuring out where you don't fatigue and continue doing that, because that's all going to be the steps in the right direction for
Okay.
your neuroinflammatory recovery.
I can, yeah, do all that stuff in the meantime if I have energy on the whatever meds I'm on. Okay.
Okay, good seeing you guys.
Thank you. Good to see you
Sure.
too.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care.
See
Bye.
you.